You've talked about schools, but even if you just walk
Very
out...
complicated agenda.
Does it actually mean anything at all?
Okay, this is right and wrong, but it doesn't actually follow it.
We've been in recession for a few years now.
Have any of you been impacted?
Real stories,
We learn from one another.
real issues. Is Islam a threat? And real views. This is Real Talk.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wherever you are watching Real Talk Africa on Muslim Television Ahmadiyya MTA, I am Shoyoye Idris Alawali, and today we are tackling one of the most urgent issues of our time: economic inequality. It is a subject that doesn't just touch on abstract economics, it affects real lives, real families, and the very fabric of our societies. Globally, the richest 1% captured 41% of all new wealth between 2020 2024, while the bottom half of the world's population gained just 1% of that wealth, as reported by the Business Day News. Let's come closer to home. Here in Nigeria, the divide is equally stark. According to recent data by the Gini coefficient, a common measure of inequality stands at around 35.1%, placing Nigeria among the more unequal nations in West Africa. According to DataFight, it says that top 10% of Nigerians now control more than 31% of the national income, while the bottom 50% share just around 22.6%. And it's not just about money. Even the richest Nigerians are also overwhelmingly avoiding their tax responsibilities. Let's say about over 99% of them evade or avoid paying taxes, according to Oxfam. These numbers aren't just statistics, they are a call to action. They raise serious questions. Why is wealth so concentrated in the hands of some few? What does this mean for economic growth, for social justice, for democracy? And most importantly, what can we do about it? To help us unpack this, I am honored to welcome two distinguished guests. Professor Fashola Mashoud. He is a development economics professor and esteemed scholar whose research has shaped thinking on inequality and socio-economic issues. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Professor.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It's indeed an honor to have you once again in the studio.
You're welcome.
Jazakallah khairan. The next that we are going to be having is Mr. Shuaib Badmas. He is a chartered accountant and internal audit professional with over 10 years of experience, spanning internal and external auditing in the Nigerian financial services sector. He has worked with leading professional services firms, delivering audit engagements, providing development consulting on World Bank-assisted projects, and offering advisory and tax management services. He currently serves as an internal auditor of a major life insurance company in Nigeria, where he specializes in risk-based auditing, regulatory compliance, and risk management. Mr. Shuaib Badmus, you're welcome to the show.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And with me also in the studio is the audience. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. You're welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khairan. So before we set the ball rolling, before we dig deep into this very important topic, economic inequality, let's see and hear what the people have to say on this topic.
I believe lack of education is one of the biggest reasons of the economic inequality. And my reason is because education is very small, but of course it's minute to some people, but it's one of the surest factor to determining well and how far anybody can go in life, in the sense that No matter how big the opportunity anybody gets in life, no matter how minute the opportunity anybody gets in life, the fact that they can able to relate with that particular thing which they are doing at the moment they are doing it gives them a better chances of getting better opportunities ahead.
I feel it's the government and corruption, because if there is corruption, so obviously they won't disseminate, like they won't disburse the resources to the people, especially the people in rural community. Those people are really the one bearing the loss of this thing.
From the point of view of Islam, and that is basically when the rich are hell-bent on retaining the wealth and not sharing it with those that are poor. And this emanates from the fact that we all know economic advancement relies on a specific knowledge, such that some people will detect a particular thing that brings in income, whereby they actually hide it in such a manner that it is going to be for them alone, and they are not allowing others to take their chance. So the basic thing is the rich are hell-bent on getting richer without minding the fact that the poor are also entitled to some of the luxuries of life or some of the wealth.
Government, I would say the government, not only the government. There are a lot of causes, but I would say the government, because the government is in charge of most of the causes. So we say corruption, we refer to the government. We say lack of educational services, we say the government. We say poverty, we say the government. We say unemployment, we say the government. So I feel like a lot of responsibilities rest on the government to make Nigeria a better place. So definitely the government.
Religion has given us a very good leeway in such a manner that from the wealth of those that have, they are expected to donate, they are expected to assist, they are expected to strengthen those that are not having the luxury, or those that do not have the opportunity to actually bank on some of the specific wealth of the nation. Take, for instance, the Holy Prophet Muhammad SAW instituted the concept of zakat in Islam, such that the moment you have something that you are not actively using for a specific period of time, there is an entitlement of the society or of the government over that particular thing that you have. So with that, it is crystal clear that you do not have a choice rather than to also contribute your quota in the development of the economic strength of the whole nation.
I personally believe that success is a thing of the mind, and so far everybody have the opportunity, the free will of determining what happens in their life. Success becomes something everybody can achieve. And of course, regardless of the background which anybody might come from, really does not determine how far they can go in life.
No, I don't think so, because I feel your background determines the opportunity you get. People from the rural communities, they don't have the privilege that people from the urban community has, so it depends on your background.
Not everyone has a fair chance, because sometimes situations can be very tough and people don't know how to come out of it. We have children in the north that are still, getting married at the age of 15, 16. So we have situations sometimes, there's this slang that in a situation they make crayfish bend. So I feel like situations sometimes determines for you, because not everybody knows how to come out of a situation that ties you down to a particular spot. So not everybody has a shot at success.
You are welcome back. And the topic still remains economic inequality on Muslim television Ahmadiyya MTA. And the program is Real Talk Africa. Professor Fashola Sir, we have many young Africans, they work hard. Some of them even go ahead to earn various types of degree. They even gain skills as much as they could. And yet there's this struggle, there's this struggle to find a job and what have you. So can we say that is our economic system, designed to reward talent or perhaps connections? Because people say you can't get any job in Nigeria, perhaps in the world, without connection.
Thank you very much indeed. It's not our economic system. We have various economic systems. All of them has their advantages and disadvantages. But man is the one that makes this system not work through corruption and abuse. Even the best system designed for mankind, which is Islam, is being abused and it's creating problems. So the problem is man, and the basic problem is taqwa. Yes, it has many synonyms: taqwa, integrity, selflessness, patriotism, honesty. They are all related. So the problem is human being, not the system.
So the problem is human being and not the system. So when we say human being, are you saying that we, as human, we decided to change our own term as far as economic is concerned? Or what is the problem exactly with human?
The problem is that we are the one to operate the system. And when we are corrupt and self-centered, there's a problem. There's always a divergence between private interests and social interests. And that's the bottom line that prophets have come to address. If man is not selfless, he will create problems. He will turn everything to his own advantage. Like in Nigeria, because of the corruption, you don't get job. So it depends on who you know. But however, you can design systems, justice system, judiciary, that address and discipline everybody. That also is a problem, because when people in judiciary are so corrupt, then you have serious problem. So that's the major problem.
So
it has to do with taqwa.
So we can say that by your explanation, we have more of a cultural problem than a structural problem, or both structural problem or cultural problem stems from corruption.
I would say that the major problem is diabolic interest, selfish interest. You know, that is why prophets have been addressing the question of taqwa, piety. You know, it has been predicted that in the latter days, the rich will get richer, the poor will get poorer. Inequality will be tremendous. In fact, say from those who have no shall take what the least they have. That's because in the latter days, there will be no taqwa. The less taqwa you have, the more there will be problem of inequality, because this will not be based on fair play anymore. But there are measures that could be taken anyway to address this and then check the corrupt tendencies of man.
Okay, so we are just getting started. I'm still coming back to you, Professor Fashola Saab. So let me speak to Mr. Badmus Shoaib. Let's look at it from a financial, system viewpoint. Is it that lack of opportunity, or should I say it's as a result of, weak institution or limited economic planning? Which of it is our problem here?
Thank you very much for having me. I will pick it from where Prof started.
Okay.
It's not a lack of good systems.
Okay.
But the systems are created in ways that the people to manage those systems take advantage of weaknesses within those systems. For instance, as somebody who always look at financial reports and analyze them, over time I have seen that taxation, for instance, in every economy is a mechanism to redistribute wealth from those who have to take care of those who do not have. But in most economies, particularly in Africa, or if I can use Nigeria as an example, the wealthy people find their way to manipulate the system such that they are able to escape what they should contribute to the economy in terms of taxation. So they pay little, while the people at the bottom ladder or at the middle do not have such ways of escape that the rich have. For example, people that are at the lower level of the ladder pay majorly what we call pay as you earn. Predominantly, they earn salaries and they don't have control over how tax is being taken from their salary and be paid to government. But for the rich, they have ways to manipulate the system, which is the foundation of that is corruption. They can bribe tax officials, they can bribe government officials, and somebody that should pay like 10 million in a year as tax will end up paying 100,000. Meanwhile, somebody that should pay 10,000 could not have any escape, will pay the 10,000. So that makes the rich become richer, as Prof said, and the poor becomes poorer. So and everybody go into the same market, we also pay what we call indirect tax. In some of value-added tax, everything you buy has that element of taxation in it. So the poor people tends to now contribute more, and that makes them poorer in a way. So the second part from financial analysis is that from elementary economics, there are four factors of labor, four factors of production, which is land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So if you look at these four factors, the least rewarded is labor. A provider of capital gets interest in economies where it's based on interest. Entrepreneurship will make profits, and landowners will also get rent as reward. So, but the people that are predominant in terms of number in that structure are people that provide labor, and their own reward is minimal. So, and there are different analyses, but the common one says that they take 10 to 20% of the wealth that is created in any business. So that makes the people that are already rich, who are opportunity to provide capital, provide land, provide entrepreneurship to become richer. And the people that are providing labor, who are the lower side of the ladder, gets little from the wealth that's being created. So that's a picture of a micro size of the inequality in businesses, which now translate to a global level or country level. So thank you very much.
So let me ask a kind of follow-up question. So in a situation, so we understand the problem now that those are at the bottom echelon of the whole thing are the one getting a peanuts. Does it now mean that perhaps maybe the system we are operating to distribute this wealth equitably is not actually the right system for us to use? For example, in China, they use something we call communalism, whereby it is, let me say, pay as you go or pay as you earn. It is what you put in that you reap from. Is it something that we can actually look into? What I'm saying in essence is that, are you saying that our system here gives room for this kind of inequality? Or you think we can adopt something better, just like China?
Even the system that we currently operate, if we are able to close the leakages, I think it will be very effective.
Okay.
And I think some countries in Africa are already looking into that. Nigeria is also trying to look into closing the leakages. For example, this year there are already tax reform laws that have been passed by the National Assembly and signed by the President. I think from January next year, so that becomes operational. So it is not lack of system or regulations. It is every system. Even if we adopt what they do in China today, that system will also have some loopholes. Once people are not ready to ensure that we sacrifice our own rights or what will be convenient for us to ensure that we take care of others, every system will still be abused. So I think that is the problem.
So invariably, we as humans, we always look for the loopholes in all systems we find a way to beat the system one way or the other. Okay, so Professor Fashola, let's come to the governments. And let's look at some of the realistic actions that they can actually take, to mitigate the loopholes and to put the trajectory aright. So, which is going to be in the next 5 years? What do you think the governments, Africa, because I know it's an Africa thing, not peculiar to Nigeria. What do you think they should do right, to block all these leakages and to ensure that wealth are equitably distributed, just as it is opined in the Quran and just as the way it has been sent to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
To take over from what my colleague has said, we have various systems. The command economies, socialist system, or centrally guided systems ensure that everybody is an employee. And there is more of equitable income distribution there. But it has its own problems. Because the objective of man is not just wealth, but there are other things like self-esteem, freedom, where there tend to be a lot of power control in economic systems. But man is not created just to pursue wealth. Now, the system we practice, you can call it free enterprise welfare economic system. And the rulers have the mandate to ensure the welfare and security of the people. They have that mandate, and they are not doing so. And even in Islam, the fourth ruler, Khalifa, Hazrat Adam al-Islam, Allah, God told him, make sure that no one is hungry in the land. God gave 4 basic needs, which are policies that are still relevant today. The 4 basic needs include food security, access to pure water, housing, that is shelter. So today, that requirement is still valid, and government are supposed to be committed to that, to make sure that everybody has income, income that ensure basic minimum living standards. It's happening in Europe. Even if you have no job, you still have income. So what government needs to do, first and foremost, is to ensure food security. That is availability of food at affordable price. But people cannot buy if they don't have income. Therefore, it is definite, it is required that give everybody gainful employment. And that's not difficult for government to do. And if you fail to give them employment, then provide an employment allowance. Now, many factors of policies are interrelated. Apart from food security, you have to ensure also optimal transport system. Without that, you cannot transport goods to various places economically. Then you have to have security. And it's a major challenge today. Even if you want to farm in Nigeria, it's difficult. You are not safe in the villages. So there's also the question of accommodation, which is a major challenge to today. Because land is scarce, and some people have monopolized land. Now, therefore, you must ensure that everybody has access to low-cost housing. And it's done all over the world. You must ensure that every individual has access to minimum housing. And that is not difficult to achieve. It's just that people are not willing to do so because of their, let's say, wickedness. So then God has said that man should seek his sustenance from the land. Okay? And that means focus on agriculture and land. And government is not doing so. By the time you focus on land, you create employment for almost everybody. And that will no, so there is no attempt to ensure we develop rural area and agricultural development. And that is making people to migrate to urban centers, creating problems. And the rural areas are deserted. So all those problems, then a major thing also is healthcare. Then education and manpower development, skill training, so that everybody can have a skill to train and be productive in the system. However, as I said, the problem is not only with the rulers, but also with the people. But God says, you cannot have anything except what you strive for. So the individual too must not be lazy, must strive hard and work hard. But government needs to create a livable environment for those who want to work hard. You see that those who are unemployed are usually those who think they are educated. The uneducated people, they find ways to earn. So government has a lot of things to do, particularly in terms of optimal transport system, security, housing, and food security. Housing is a major challenge. By the time you have a worker earning 50,000 naira to pay a rent of 20,000 per month, transportation 20,000, he has nothing left. So government needs to address that, and we have that system. Don't have a system where somebody acquire hundreds of acres of land, one person. You remember the time when Mustafa said, one man, one plot. Now we have to make sure that every individual has access to housing. And that's not difficult given the land expanse that God has blessed us. So there are many of such problems. It's just that the people are not willing to be, to serve humanity, to be kind-hearted, to be merciful. And that's what the religion is even emphasizing. You know, the merciful shall be mercy. But many of these leaders, they are just acquiring, amassing wealth. And they don't care about the welfare of the masses. We have enough resources that God has, that nature has given us, that we can address all this inequality. You know, we are not talking about amassing wealth, but we are talking about minimum standard living. That's what's important. Because God said, if you give you plenty of resources, plenty of provision, you become rebellious. So God deliberately sometimes limits the access of people to amassing wealth. Because when you become wealthy, you become rebellious. So, but God has said, tell my worshippers, God told the prophet, tell my people who believe that they should be pious. Okay? And for those who do good, there's good in this life for them. If you strive to do good, God will grant you good. That is a law, which God does not. So whatever happens, however bad the thing is, those who are pious will find out. You can see Ahmadiyya Jamaat. Look at them in the United Kingdom. They are prosperous. Even in Nigeria, we are becoming more prosperous. So the problem also lies with the individual. Although the government has a lot of responsibility to create an enable environment for the individual, particularly in terms of access to resources, capital, land, healthcare, housing, and affordable food.
Jazakallah khairan, Professor Fashola sir. So, in summary, we are saying that the bulk of the job lies with the government, and individuals who have, little effort to put into the whole thing to work hand in hand with the government. So, invariably, we are talking about symbiotic relationship, that of the government knowing their responsibilities and the people knowing their own obligations.
Please let me add that whatever happens, whatever the individual does, government will ensure that everybody has adequate access to food and
Very
housing and
food
clean
and
water.
Food, house, clean water, and adequate security.
Adequate security.
Jazakallah khairan. So let me move to Mr. Badmus Shoaib. So let's look at the kind of fiscal discipline, or let's say reform, most governments should adopt when it comes to making policies that will, enable and form a kind of succor to the people so that they can have at least the basic amenities, just as Professor have said.
Thank you very much. Very good question. The currency of every economy that is not feasible is trust. So the first thing the government needs to do is to ensure that there is trust within the system. So if that happens, everybody becomes confident to play their role. So the very first thing is to, just as been mentioned before, is to ensure that all the gaps within the economic system are closed and what should be available for everybody should be available. Such that, because inequality is not just a question of the money in the pocket of people, the end result is the quality of life. For example, in situations where we don't have access to electricity, people who are wealthy can provide their own electricity. They can get a generator, they can do solar, they can do any alternative source of energy. But the poor people don't have that. So if there is no abundance of accommodation, so people that are rich can build their own houses, can do anything, even not relying on government. But the people that are poor don't have such opportunities. So the first thing the government needs to do is to ensure that the leakages in the system that skew opportunity towards people that are already wealthy should be closed. That is, if it's a matter of urgency. So secondly, is to now do what is called inclusive economy, where everybody becomes a stakeholder in the economy, where there are opportunities for people to, no matter how little, for them to contribute and get rewarded. That whatever effort they make, the reward they get is commensurate to that effort. So there are systems in Africa where people make little efforts, but they get huge returns. For instance, that is reducing in Nigeria. For instance, there was a time when some people, the only thing they do is to buy US dollars and resell in the black market. And that gives them huge wealth, massive, that doesn't require any effort. Meanwhile, you have people who are making serious efforts, committing 20 out of 24 hours of a day. Meanwhile, what they are getting in return is very little. So a system or an environment of that nature does not encourage people to become committed and does not also encourage people to work for what they need to get. That's why among young people today, some of them will even say going to school is a scam, because they have seen people who don't make as much effort, that don't even have serious education are making serious money. So once all that are closed, so everybody will now understand that what they get depends on the efforts they make. and that will make the economy become less unequal, and everybody strive to contribute their quota and get rewarded for whatever contribution they make.
That's a very beautiful submission, Mr. Oshua Badmos. Beloved viewers of MTA, if you're just joining us, we have been talking about economic inequality on Real Talk Africa. Yeah, before we move further, we have another Vox Pop where we talk to the people on, the rich and the poor, the gap between them, what is causing it, and what do they think could be done, to close, the gap that is widened between the rich and the poor. Let's enjoy this Vox Pop.
The truth be told, the gap between the poor and the rich in our economy, in our present economy, is really not getting better. It's getting worse. To me, basically, it's really getting worse. But I also believe that, speaking about the poor, poverty is one of the things I so much believe that is a state of the mind. Poverty is a state of the mind. People can be born poor and they can choose and determine not to continue with whatever they are born with.
The rich continue getting richer and the poor keeps getting poorer. So I feel like it's still worse. The rich did not want the poor to meet them. So they are doing everything by all means, increasing price, everything by all means to make sure they don't meet them.
With the reluctance of the superpower submitting some quota of all some specific sphere of power to the underdeveloped countries, it is so difficult to say that that gap has been mitigated. No, not yet. However, I think there are things that are being put in place. There are policies such that is actually encouraging total inclusiveness, such that if the rich eats, the poor should also find something to eat.
I wouldn't just focus my answer on the fact that just some certain people are suffering. I would say everybody is suffering. Now, our economy basically in Nigeria as it is right now, everybody is experiencing one thing or the other, either rich or poor. So in this present economy inequality or economic inequality, which is the question you asked basically, I'd say everybody suffers equally.
It's the rural community that they are suffering most. The lack of resources, lack of education, job creation, they lack almost everything. Social amenities, water, roads, they lack everything, almost everything.
Basically, I would say those that are affected are those that do not have access to what technology would offer currently. Because in reality, social media, the coming of AI, the coming of technology, everything has actually mitigated the effect of this distance.
Those that suffer inequality the most are those in the rural communities. If you are now a female in the rural community, it becomes worse because you are in a rural community. If opportunity comes, due to the Nigerian mentality, it is men that should have access to these opportunities. So if you are now a female, you would have a lower chance of getting access to these opportunities only if you are really, really good and they see you as someone who is like really, really good and should have access to these opportunities. But other than that, they would actually give those opportunities to men because that's the kind of community and setting living in Nigeria currently.
You're welcome back. So, Professor Fashola, let's discuss, when money leaks, who benefits? Here we hear people say, Nigeria, or let's say Africa, is rich, that the problem we have is how to spend our wealth. Do you agree to this assertion? That is one. And again, these leakages that we're talking about, where is it leaking to? How can ordinary citizen, how can they benefit, despite the fact that it's leaking? When we talk about solution now, solution, yeah, is something that could come based on the kind of government we have. And sometimes we might not guarantee that we might have government that will bring forth the lasting solution anytime soon. So when we are having leakages vis-a-vis the government policy and what have you, in what other ways do you think those are the bottom can actually benefit despite the fact that there are leakages?
Thank you very much indeed. Let me take it from where my colleague stopped.
Yeah.
Right. That is leakage. Actually, it's corruption. That's the greatest problem confronting Africa. There are tremendous corruption. And to fight against corruption is like a Herculean task. You have corruption in terms of capital flight. People steal money in various ways. And those who have to catch them also thieves. For instance, you have a budget of run to trillions, and people can take the money, do fully contract, take it abroad. A lot of Nigerians' wealth is kept abroad to acquire properties, to put in banks, billions of dollars. So without checking this corruption, the inequality cannot be solved. So a major task that I have to face is fighting corruption. I say if you fight corruption, corruption is fighting. We don't know who can fight corruption because it's like all are corrupt. So we have to pray to God Almighty. But sometimes we have a revolution. Like what happened in Ghana one time, the realists. You now said, got rid of all corrupt elements. So I think maybe the current government is trying to fight corruption, but it's still very difficult. You can know how much oil loot that is going out, how much money is being transferred. You know, they say they bring in petroleum for subsidy and nothing comes in because they just get certificate that they have imported PMS and they get the money. So they make trillions for doing this or nothing, just because they have power. So to fight corruption is a great challenge. Well, for those of us who believe in the Almighty God Almighty, we have to continue to pray to God Almighty. And we are now praying. There are some elements in government at federal level, state and local government who are honest people. They want to do what is right, but their life is threatened. We need to pray and we'll find the ways of supporting them and giving them encouragement. Sometimes they are hiding themselves because we want to kill them. Because those who are benefiting from corruption, they're enormous. All institutions, name it, government, judiciary, military, individuals, you know, people have think that you have to be part of the corruption. And now, fighting corruption is a Herculean task. In fact, that is the greatest problem. Because if there's no leakage, you won't be available to develop infrastructure, to develop agriculture, and so on and so on. But when you have a state government with its budget, you see they are doing nothing, okay? Infrastructure is neglected, the villages are neglected. What do they do with the money? But they have billions of dollars abroad, billions of properties abroad. So that's a major problem. So the major problem in Africa in addressing inequality is corruption, embezzlement.
Until we'll find somebody who is going to bail the cat of corruption in Nigeria and perhaps Africa in general, maybe the leakages would stop. To Mr. Badmus, let us look at it from this angle. You know, as someone who audits, you know, financial systems, and just as Prof has said that leakages are due to corruption, just as if we are using semantics, so say leakages, we are actually talking about, you know, corruption. Now, is it due to weak monitoring or it's a deliberate exploitation?
I can say...
Maybe I should add this question to it as well, that when we talk about corruption, that's the first one I asked is one. Then the second one, which is the second question under it, is that, is it that who is corrupt, the people or the government? Should we say that, should we point accusing finger at the government for not being able to control? Or should we point accusing finger at the people who are personally corrupt, despite, you know, system put in place, they still find a way to circumvent due process? Who are we to blame?
I will look at it from both sides. Okay. But maybe I can use this proverbial chicken and egg story. That if you ask a question around the egg and the chicken, which one was created first? So if you say it's the chicken, somebody will ask further. So where's the egg that was hatched to create that chicken? So if you say the one that came first is the egg, so another person will ask the question around which chicken actually produced that egg. So the question has always come up around, where do you stop corruption first? Is it from the government or from the citizens? But I think, practically, I think it's better it starts from the government. Because every government is like a father in a family.
So let us look at it. I asked a question about, is it weak monitoring or a problem of deliberate, exploitation?
Okay, both. First is that government creates institutions to really monitor and see that corruption is tamed. But the problem, as already rightly mentioned by Prof, is that the question of people will always arise. Because the people to monitor, you still need people. And corruption is always done by people. So I think a solution really is that as much as possible, we can use technology to replace a lot of people. Such that we know that it is the people that have corruption tendencies. So in countries where they have successfully, to a very large extent, used technology to monitor what is happening, so that reduces to a very significant level. So though technology too has its own challenges, so people still manipulate the system. So the question is about people, whether they are in government or they are in the followership. So as much as possible, the end product actually is for people to have a change of attitude. And like I said, it has to start from demonstration from people in government. So once others see that our leaders are demonstrating corruption-free activities, then it sends signals to others too, to see that, okay, if the people at the government are now very clear away from corruption, they know that if others now engage in corruption, they will be dealt with seriously. But once they see that the people at the top are doing their own, so it's a free-for-all. Everybody will look at it like, okay, nobody can even get at me if I do the same thing that they are doing at the top.
So I must take from the national cake. So, audience, what do you have to say? So please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Alawadi Atar Rahman. So to Mr. Shoaib Badmas, when you were speaking initially, you mentioned this, that the system nowadays that the rich are getting richer and the poor guys are getting poorer. However, I've seen studies results showing that, most of the millionaires we have nowadays, or people, the rich folk, these guys are actually, they are first generation millionaires, meaning they made everything they have. They made it from scratch. Now, and you're telling us that rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. So it means for these people to be on the stage, the rich people of yesterday, they left the stage. So how is this something that is just a new occurrence in society, or how frequently in history do we see these displacements of wealth between different generations?
All right. Any other question, observation?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Oyetola Kois Olamide. So I have a little question. My question is that in this ecosystem, what prayer can we do to help the government and ourselves as a whole?
All right. Very beautiful submission. Is that all?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi.
My name is Shitu Abdulaziz. So my question goes to Mr. Shoaib. When he was talking, he said, when we put technology in place of manpower, we all know that technology do not lie. So it is going to kind of create a solution whereby corruption is going to reduce. But my question goes thus: when we put in technology, we know that there are some set of people that are working in that position. What becomes of these people? How do they get something to have an income?
All right. So that's from the audience. I would want Professor Fashola to take that of the prayer part. That in situations where we find ourselves, the front, when you look at going forward, it seems it's very difficult. We are not seeing any light at the end of the tunnel. And when we look back, it feels as if we have a kind of dark past that we cannot even talk about. And when we look at the present, it feels as if everything is just not going as we want. In situation as such, what prayer do you...
Thank you very much indeed. Before I go to prayer, let me emphasize the point raised by Brother Shoaib about technology. The type of technology I'm talking about is not AI, where you can tell lies with AI. I'm talking technology that will monitor, like CCTV camera, will now expose everything. It has been said in the Quran in latter days, but what you do will be revealed. So every police station can have drone, can even take picture of everything going on around him. Now, how the people solve problems is that have a good leader. God has raised good leaders in the past. Like Hazrat Musa, Hazrat Ibrahim, and the greater of them, Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu. Good had a good companions. Now you have a good leader. You cannot achieve without proper monitoring. And he said, people will do monitoring and they may not do proper monitoring. But you can use technology to do monitoring, which is a very effective power. You know, Murtala Muhammad used to disguise and go about hospital schools to see what is going on. But they know this man wants to achieve, and they assassinated him. So if you have a good leader, he cannot achieve unless he does proper monitoring. And technology has now come to assistance that can do proper monitoring. You can have public telephones that you can anonymously call or upload anonymously videos. But the camera can have everywhere. In Abuja, they one time put camera, but some people went and dismantled them. So we need to work on one institution. First of all, that's the police. First said, the institution that can be used to do reformation is police. But then in recruiting to police, you must make sure you recruit the best of mankind. You pay them the best of remuneration, because if there's no security, you cannot achieve anything. Police should be the one that are best paid. If they are best, we don't need private security if police is working well. So by the time you recruit police and make sure that those you call are the best, and then people can say, okay, this one you recruited, we have case about it, it's not a good person. And it's possible to select the best men, but academic excellence and morality, sometimes they correlate. By the time you are recruiting the best of brains, like in the Netherlands, they recruit first-class honors to police, to audit and everything in police. So by the time you you recruit the best of minds, you see that the police will talk better.
It changes their trajectory.
So
quickly
then
tell us about
the prayer. Now, there's the prayer of the Holy Prophet in the Quran. The prayer of Shuaib says, رَبَّنَا افْتَحْ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَ قَوْمِنَا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَعْفَاتِهِنَا. That prayer of Shuaib. Then another prayer that I've said is the prayer against the Dajjal of latter days. That prayer is the last verse of Surah Anbiya. That is chapter 21. The Tafsir of Maria said that the prayer, the Holy Prophet said that the prayer will be necessary in the latter days. But the prayer of Shuaib is also necessary. Those two prayers are very important. And I do tell our people, if you want to be safeguarded from this turmoil, recite Surah to Quraysh regularly. Because God said it's the one that protected Quraysh people from poverty, from insecurity. That prayer works for those who worship. If they recite Surah to Quraysh regularly, in several times, they will be protected from poverty and insecurity. But you know, the Holy Prophet Islam was the one that transformed the world. Similarly, we need a leader that will transform. But that leader needs companions. Now, these may not have good companions, but the technology can be used as companions to monitor everybody. And the police will need to be reformed, given technology and the best of men. If we work on police, they will deal with everybody. In the Netherlands, police can arrest anybody. I was there when police stopped the president, Van Haak, in the Netherlands. The driver was driving too fast, and police officer stopped. He said, "You are driving too fast." And then say, "It's the president." He saluted the president. He has immunity. The funny, the people carried. He lost the election. So, you know, in the UK, the prime minister was invited. So the police, they are very powerful. They are the ones that go with siren, nobody except ambulance. So we need to work on police to become effective in fighting corruption.
So once the police are actually, well organized and we recruit the best of them, the truthful of them, and those who are not corrupt of them, then we'll find out that the trajectory of Nigeria security and perhaps Africa will be something to talk about. Mr. Shuaib, the question that was thrown at you, briefly.
Okay, thank you very much. The question about generational change in terms of wealth. So like we have rightly noticed, you see that the people that are wealthy several years ago, naturally people will die. That is one cause of change. Another thing that can cause change, may God not let us experience that in Nigeria, is war. So if there's war, everybody becomes the same. So it's like starting from ground zero. So those things happen by nature. But beyond that, people also get to the wet bracket by change of attitude. So today, we will see that there are a lot of us that will complain about, you cannot even get anything if you don't know anybody, if you don't belong to a particular bracket in the society and all that. But Allah the Almighty gives us a very clear example of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. So in Surah Al-Qasas, you know that Musa alayhi salam escaped from Egypt to Madian. So when he got there, he didn't know anybody. He didn't have any influence. He did not know the president, nobody. But what he did first, to build his own network. Because there's a saying that if they don't give you a space at their table, you can create your own table. So what Musa did practically was to create his own table. So, but what he did was to offer assistance immediately. The assistance he offered was not money, but he saw ladies who were weak, they needed to water their flocks and they couldn't do that. So he helped them. So that was the first thing he did. So today too, we know that some people have influence. So when we meet such people, we should not think of what we gain from them first. So what we should think of immediately is, what can I do? What can I offer? So after offering what Musa was able to offer, then he steps aside, he prayed to Allah. Say, oh Allah, I'm in need of whatever good you will send to me. So that is prayer. So first is offer your service. Then second is prayer. Then thirdly was that it was trustworthy. So at the point that he didn't have influence, what one of those ladies told their father, Prophet Shuaib alayhi salam, was that, Father, give this man a job. Because the best of people who can give a job is somebody that is strong, that is representing competence and also trustworthy. So in offering that assistance, it did not manipulate anything. It did not exploit them. So he gained that influence because he was now introduced to somebody of influence. So that is how he broke from somebody that was not having any influence, somebody that did not belong to any network that can help him. But because of his service that he was able to offer, he was trustworthy and he was competent. So those are the things that sold him to somebody that was of influence. So he began to carry on with his own influence from that point. So that's just a practical example of saying, even us too, if we want to rise beyond where we are, even when there are no people to help. So we can follow that Musa's model, alayhi salam, to also break away from the bottom line, to also get up there.
Jazakallah khairan. Musa model is something to follow, especially for us who are actually looking at ways by which we can become somebody of substance in a table where we have not been invited. Then we can create our table vis-a-vis trying to bring forth opportunities, being trustworthy, and being able to offer invaluable, ideas. So we have one of our guests that will be joining us on a live call. He is Dr. Akorede Ali Rufai. He is also an expert of economics. You're welcome, Dr. Akorede Rufai, and thank you very much for joining us on the live call. So we want to ask you, Dr. Akorede, in many African countries, people feel that the economic system is designed to favor the wealthy. From your own perspective, what single reform would most effectively reduce inequality and create fairness for the average citizens?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Concerning the design of economic system that is being in practice in African economies, that it is being seen as being the wealthy favored. But the thing is, yes, we can say that, because if you have a deep penetration and insight into the African economy, we observe that the African economy mostly tends toward the capitalist structure, because where individuals is being privileged, allowed to have a free access to resources, to manage them for his or our own entrepreneurial inside gain. And in such situation that you have access to control resources individually, so it will definitely enrich such personalities if they could manage their skills and their entrepreneurial skill and capitalist tendencies. So that is why it's against economies where it is the center, that is the government, that controls resources. That is the socialist or communist economy. So you will say that people will always argue in favor that the African economic system favors the rich. It makes the rich to get richer and the poor to get poorer. So thereby enlarging the poverty line. But if we may ask ourselves, there is always a situation that we've had a lot of situation in the system. I will take Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana, and some economists as a case study. We've seen a situation that people without any wealthy inheritance, any lineage, any of their lineage being wealthy, became wealthier. Of the blessed memory, late Arenaka Kanfo, Moshood Abelak was not from a wealthy family, but he became rich on the long run. So the disparity that people will accrue to the African system is being biased on one aspect, because any economy that provides the tool to fight poverty, that is education and information. If there is information symmetry, if information is not asymmetry, so it should be easier for the citizen to elevate themselves out of the poverty threshold or poverty trap. So I can totally agree that it is a system we practice, although the capitalist economy skills workers of their ability to spend more of what they can earn on themselves. And that is what one famous Marxist economist, Karl Marx, said are called the iron wages of labor. Because the capitalists, the bourgeois, they will pay you what will sustain you, but will make you rich, so that we come back and continue working. And that was why even the father of economics himself, that's been quoted in one of his books, that is not the benevolence of a baker that the bread is being owned for his own self-interest. To be kind with ourselves, the wealthy one, the influenced one will continue to get rich if they could manage, and the unprivileged one will also climb the ladder of success if they could also get the necessary education and information and the entrepreneurial instinct in them to activate. Until we all believe that certificate alone cannot make one to be rich, and we focus, we design our economy to a situation that skills, valuable skills, works where it needs to work. Education certification also needs to work where it needs to work. So it is not the economic system that is the challenge, but the institutional factor that the economy is being built on. I mean, if that you for free, UK, US, even majority of the world tends toward capitalist. It's only few countries that were using socialism. We remember the communism of Great China. So even China itself is turning back to capitalism on the long run with a little aspect of communism in their blood. So it's not the economic system that is influencing the poverty or the wealthy rate, but the institutional quality and the tendency of the populace to acquire the necessary skills to save them, secure them out of the poverty trap. So in conclusion, I will say that it is not the design of the economic system that endangers the less privileged or enrich the privileged, but rather the institutional factor and the level of education with skills acquisition in such environment has an inbuilt instinct to either mal or mar the success of individuals. Don't forget, the three systems that build an economy starts from individual. So if the individual gets it right, the family gets it right, the government gets it right.
All right, Jazakallah khairan. That was a very beautiful submission, Dr. Akorede Ali Rufai. It's a very rich one. Jazakallah. All right. So, gradually, beloved viewers of MTA, we are getting to the end of today's episode of Real Talk Africa, and the topic still remains economic inequality. So, Professor Fashola, I'd like to take your very brief final thoughts on this topic, economic inequality.
Thank you very much indeed. There are three factors that are very critical. One, accommodation. Now, I mentioned that Quran mentioned 4 basic needs.
Yes.
Shelter, food, clothing, and water. Okay. Government has to ensure that people have shelter, and that is possible. They say rent control is quite possible. Yeah. Or low-cost housing where you allow people to build houses for low-income workers. Number 2, transportation. Workers pay a lot in commuting. Government can subsidize it tremendously. That pay little. Number 3, that is rural areas, development of rural agriculture, so that food can become so cheap and it can bring. Then private health care. Those things, if it's addressed fully, you see that economic inequality will be less and people will be much better. We are not talking of having plenty of work, but having reasonable living standards.
Sustainable living standard. Jazakallah khair. Mr. Badmus Shoaib, your final thoughts on this topic.
Thank you very much. Prof. Saib has mentioned what government needs to do. So I will take it from the part of the citizens. Gradually, I think that there are efforts being made by governments in Africa. So if I use Nigeria as a sample, there are government initiatives that are coming up to address the inequality situation in a way. So, but what I've seen is that there's deficit of information. So a lot of people don't even know that those things happen. So the little that has been done, what I think is necessary is for us as people to ensure that we become aware. And I know the Jamaat is also doing a lot in creating that awareness. Just yesterday, there was a program around the student loan that government is doing. So there are a lot of other initiatives like that, even if the impact is not so much now, but as much as they are available, it is necessary that citizens continue to take advantage of those initiatives, such that we begin to see a closure in the inequality gap as we move forward. Then secondly, both from the side of government and people, so we need to have what is called mad discipline against corruption. Because whatever initiative the government puts down, and if corruption can eat everything in a day, so we teach that with our children at home. People in government should also demonstrate that they are against corruption. So I think all that put together will give us a way of closing the inequality gap gradually. So thank you very much.
What a rich and powerful discussion. Thank you, and Jazakallah Khair and Professor Fashola Mashoud for giving us the academic framework to understand economic inequality, its root causes, its structure, and its long-term implications. Jazakallah Khairan, and we hope when we call on you another time, you would kindly oblige us.
Alhamdulillah,
Jazakallah Khairan. And to Mr. Shoaib Badmus, thank you for translating that framework into the practical realities of taxation, finance, and policy. What mechanisms really widens or narrow the gap. Jazakallah khairan, and we hope that when we call upon you another time, you will, inshallah, oblige us.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khairan.
Yeah, Jazakallah. And to my audience, Jazakallah khairan for being a part of this show. May Almighty Allah continue to be your guide and guide. Beloved viewers, this is how far we can go on today's episode of Real Talk Africa. Economic inequality is not just someone else's problem. It is ours. It shapes opportunity, stability, and hope. As we depart, here are a few questions I invite you to ponder upon. 1. What concrete actions should governments take to ensure the very rich contribute more fairly? 2. How can civil society and ordinary citizens hold financial and political elites accountable? And 3, perhaps most powerfully, what role can each of us play in our communities and workplaces to help bridge the divide? If today's conversation has stirred something in you, a question, an idea, or a call to action, doesn't stop here. Share it, debate it, and act on it. Join us next time on Real Talk Africa, where we continue to probe, challenge, and inspire. Until then, for feedbacks or inquiry, kindly reach out to us via africa@mta.tv. Stay thoughtful, stay engaged, and stay hopeful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.